who's a good boy. You're all right, sweetie. Everything is gonna be fine.
The morning arrived gently. Not with urgency. Not with noise. Just light. Soft sunlight slipped through the tall front windows of the rescue center, spreading slowly across the tiled floor, warming the corners of the room where the shadows still slept. It was the kind of morning that felt familiar. Safe. Predictable. The air smelled faintly of clean soap, fresh water, and something warm like brewed coffee drifting in from the volunteer room. A woman moved quietly down the hallway, her sneakers barely making a sound. She carried a clipboard close to her chest, as if even paper might disturb the calm. She paused by the kennels, smiling softly. "Good morning, everyone." Her voice stayed low, almost a whisper. Tails thumped gently against metal doors. A few noses pressed forward. No barking. Just recognition. At the far end of the room, curled on a folded blanket, was the newest arrival? The puppy. He was small. Too small for how alert he looked. His fur was still uneven. That soft, fuzzy texture puppies lose too quickly. One ear stood up. The other never quite decided. He didn't rush forward like the others. He didn't cry. He watched. His body remained still, but his eyes moved slowly from face to face, tracking footsteps, reading tone, absorbing everything. When the woman passed his kennel, she stopped. She knelt down. "Hey there." Her voice softened even more. "You're up early." The puppy lifted his head. Not suddenly. Not nervously. Just, deliberately. His tail tapped the blanket once. Twice. She smiled. "There it is," she murmured. She opened the kennel door. The puppy didn't jump out. Instead, he leaned forward, placed one paw gently on the floor, tested the space. Only then did he step out. The woman noticed it immediately. How carefully he moved. How he stayed close. But not clingy. She reached out. He met her hand halfway, pressing his nose into her palm. Warm. Trusting. Something in her chest softened. "You're different," she whispered. She clipped on a small leash and guided him toward the open room. Sunlight wrapped around them as they walked. Other volunteers filtered in. Soft greetings. Muted laughter. One man poured coffee. Another refilled water bowls. The puppy followed calmly, his gaze drifting, but never unfocused. When someone crouched nearby, he acknowledged them. A tail wag. A quiet sniff. When someone walked past quickly, he watched until they were gone, as if counting footsteps. Time moved slowly, peacefully, until the front door opened. The sound wasn't loud, just the familiar chime of a bell. But the puppy stopped walking. Not froze. Stopped. His head lifted. His ears shifted forward. His body leaned just slightly toward the sound. The woman felt the leash tighten. She looked down. The puppy's tail was still, his gaze fixed on the doorway. A man stood there. Mid-30s, maybe older. Casual jacket. Neutral expression. He looked around, taking in the room. "Hi," he said. "I'm here to ask about volunteering." His voice was calm. Normal. No one reacted. Except the puppy. A sound rose quietly from his chest. Low. Controlled. A growl. Not sharp. Not angry. But clear. The woman's hand instinctively tightened on the leash. Oh! She laughed softly. Hey, it's okay. The puppy didn't move. His stance shifted. Feet planted. Weight balanced. He wasn't pulling forward. He wasn't retreating. He was holding ground. The man noticed. He chuckled awkwardly. Guess I'm not making a good first impression. Another volunteer smiled. He's new. Probably just nervous. The puppy growled again. Same tone. Same volume. Purposeful. The room felt different now. Not tense. Not afraid. Just aware. The woman knelt beside the puppy. She placed a hand gently along his back. His muscles were firm beneath her touch. Not shaking. Not frantic. Focused. It's okay, she whispered again. The puppy didn't look at her. His eyes never left the man. The man shifted his weight. I can step outside if... No, she said quickly. It's fine. He's probably just... She stopped. Because the puppy leaned forward. Just an inch. Enough to say something. The growl didn't change. But her heartbeat did. She swallowed. I've never seen him do that, she said quietly. The man's smile faded. He raised his hand slightly. Non-threatening. I really love dogs, he said. Always have. The puppy didn't respond. Not to the voice. Not to the gesture. Only to something deeper. Something unseen. The woman felt a chill. Not cold. Just instinct. She stood slowly, guiding the puppy back a step. Let's give him some space, she said. The man nodded. He stepped back toward the door. The growl softened. Didn't stop, but eased. When the door closed behind the man, the puppy exhaled. His body relaxed. His tail gave a small wag, as if a switch had been flipped. The room breathed again. Someone laughed nervously. Well, that was odd. The woman crouched again. She looked at the puppy. At the calm eyes. The relaxed ears. What was that about? She whispered. The puppy looked up at her. Then, just for a moment, he pressed his forehead gently into her chest. Seeking contact. Connection. As if to say, you felt it too. She closed her eyes. A quiet thought formed in her mind. This wasn't fear. This wasn't aggression. This was instinct. And whatever the puppy sensed, it mattered. The rest of the morning tried to return to normal. Bowls were filled. Blankets were straightened. Soft music played somewhere in the background. The kind meant to calm both dogs and people. But something had shifted. Not in the room. In the woman. She kept noticing the puppy. Not because he demanded attention, but because he didn't. While the other dogs reacted loudly to movement, to voices, to the promise of treats, the puppy stayed quiet. Always alert. Always watching. She sat on the floor beside him during her break. The sunlight had moved now, stretching across the room at a lower angle, turning dust into gold. She rested her back against the wall. The puppy lay near her knee. Not touching. Just close enough. She noticed how his head tilted slightly whenever someone spoke. How his eyes lingered longer on certain people. then drifted away from others almost instantly. It wasn't random. There was rhythm to it. A volunteer walked past carrying laundry. The puppy glanced, then looked away. Another volunteer crouched nearby, tying her shoe. The puppy leaned forward, sniffed the air, then relaxed. The woman frowned slightly. "You're checking us," she murmured. The puppy's ear twitched. She smiled. "Yeah," she said softly. "I see it now." She reached for a chew toy, rolled it gently across the floor. The puppy watched it move. Didn't chase. Instead, he looked at her first. Waiting. She nodded. "Go ahead." Only then did he move. Slow. Measured. He nudged the toy. Then picked it up. Then brought it back. Not excited. Intentional. Her chest tightened in a way she couldn't explain. "Good boy," she whispered. His tail tapped the floor once. Later that afternoon, more visitors came. A couple looking to adopt. A teenager with her mother. A delivery driver dropping off supplies. The puppy noticed them all. But he didn't react. Not like before. Until the same man returned. The door opened. The bell chimed. The puppy's body shifted instantly. No growl this time. Just posture. His head lifted. His spine straightened. His eyes locked. The woman felt it before she heard it. She turned. The man stood just inside the doorway. Smiling again. "Hey," he said. "Sorry about earlier. Thought I'd try again." The puppy stood. Slowly. Deliberately. He moved in front of the woman. Not aggressively. Protectively. Her breath caught. She hadn't trained him to do that. No one had. The leash wasn't even attached. She placed a hand gently on his shoulder. His muscles were calm. Steady. Not tense. The growl returned. Softer than before. But unmistakable. The room fell quiet. Someone cleared their throat. The man laughed lightly. "Wow. He really doesn't like me." The woman didn't laugh this time. She studied the puppy. The focus in his eyes. The certainty. This wasn't fear. Fear shakes. Fear flees. This was something else. The man shifted uncomfortably. "I don't want to cause trouble," he said. "I'll come back another day." As he stepped back, the puppy relaxed. Again. As if his job was done. The door closed. Silence lingered. One volunteer whispered, "That's twice now." The woman nodded. Her heart was beating faster. She knelt beside the puppy. "What are you seeing?" she whispered. "That we're not?" The puppy turned his head toward her. Licked her chin once. Gentle. Reassuring. Then he lay down at her feet. Watching the door. Waiting. And in that quiet moment, she realized something important. This puppy wasn't reacting. He was deciding. And whatever guided those decisions, it wasn't random at all. By the third day, the woman stopped calling it a coincidence. She arrived early that morning. Earlier than usual. The sky outside was still pale. That soft blue-gray that comes just before sunrise. The rescue center felt quieter than ever. Like it was holding its breath. She unlocked the front door. Stepped inside. And paused. The puppy was already awake. He sat upright on his blanket. Head lifted. Eyes calm and focused. As if he'd been waiting. "Morning," she whispered. His tail moved once. Not excited. Not sleepy. Present. She clipped on his leash and guided him toward the open space near the windows. Sunlight hadn't reached the floor yet. But it was coming. She poured water. Checked notes. Moved through her routine. The puppy followed. Always at a measured distance. Always aware. She decided to test something. Not deliberately. Not scientifically. Just, gently. When another volunteer arrived, laughing softly on the phone, the puppy glanced at her. Then returned his attention to the room. When the delivery driver arrived, same as before. The puppy sniffed the air. And relaxed. No reaction. Later, a family came in to meet a dog. 2 parents. One little boy holding a stuffed bear. The puppy noticed them. He approached slowly. Lowered himself to the floor. Let the boy come to him. The boy smiled. The puppy wagged. Everything made sense. Until the door chimed again. Mid-morning. The woman didn't look up at first. But the puppy did. Instantly. His body stilled. The leash tightened between them. Her stomach dropped. She followed his gaze. It was the same man. Again. Different clothes this time. Same neutral smile. I hope I'm not bothering anyone, he said lightly. I just wanted to talk. The puppy didn't growl. Not yet. Instead, he stepped forward. Placed himself directly between the man and the woman. Closer than before. The room went quiet. The woman's pulse thudded in her ears. She crouched beside him. It's okay, she whispered. The puppy didn't look at her. The growl came. Low. Steady. Unbroken. Not loud enough to alarm. But strong enough to be heard. The man stopped walking. He raised his eyebrows. That's unusual, he said. The woman stood slowly. Her voice stayed calm. I think, maybe today isn't a good day. The man's smile tightened. Dogs usually love me, he said. I don't know why. He took one step forward. The growl deepened. Not louder. Deeper. The puppy's stance widened slightly. Grounded. Sure. The woman felt it then. Not fear. Clarity. She placed a hand firmly on the puppy's back. Please, she said. I'm going to ask you to step outside. The man hesitated. For just a moment. Then he nodded. Of course, he said. No problem. As he turned toward the door, the puppy relaxed. Again. As if a switch had been turned off. The bell chimed. Silence returned. Someone exhaled loudly. That's 3 times, a volunteer whispered. The woman nodded. Her hands were trembling now. She knelt beside the puppy. Her voice was barely audible. What do you know? She asked softly. That we don't? The puppy leaned into her touch. Calm. Warm. Certain. She looked around the room. At the people who came and went. At the puppy who reacted to only one of them. 3 times. Same response. Same man. No confusion now. This wasn't a mood. This wasn't stress. This was pattern. And patterns meant meaning. She sat there for a long moment. One hand resting on the puppy's back. The other pressed to the floor for balance. A quiet decision formed in her chest. She wasn't going to ignore this. Not anymore. Because some instincts don't shout. They whisper. And this puppy had been whispering from the very beginning. That evening. The rescue center felt different. Not quieter. Not louder. Just closer. The woman stayed late. She told herself it was paperwork. Follow-ups. Missed notes. But the truth was simpler. She didn't want to leave the puppy. The overhead lights were dim now. Only the warm lamps along the walls remained, casting soft circles of light across the floor. She sat on the rug near the puppy's blanket. Shoes off. Back against the wall. The puppy lay beside her. Not touching, but close enough that she could feel the warmth of his body through the air. She watched him breathe. Slow. Even. Every now and then. His ears shifted. Not toward sound. Toward feeling. You're always listening, she murmured. The puppy didn't move, but his tail brushed the rug once. She smiled. She reached into her pocket, pulled out a small notebook. She hadn't planned to do this, but her hand moved anyway. Day 1, growled at man. Calm otherwise. Day 2, same man. Same reaction. Day 3, protective stance. No fear response. She paused. Chewed the end of her pen. You're not scared, she whispered. You're sure? The puppy lifted his head slightly. Looked at her. His eyes were steady. Grounded. Almost reassuring. She set the notebook aside. Shifted closer. This time, the puppy leaned into her leg. Just enough to touch. Her breath caught. It wasn't training. It wasn't conditioning. It was choice. She rested her hand gently on his back. He didn't flinch. Didn't move away. His body softened under her palm. Okay, she said quietly. I'm listening now. The next few days, they learned each other. Not through commands. Not through structure. Through stillness. She noticed how he reacted to tone more than words. How he trusted pauses. How silence seemed to make him feel safe. She stopped rushing around him. She slowed her movements. Lowered her voice. And in return, he followed her everywhere. Not at her heels. At her side. When visitors came, she watched his posture. The way his head lifted. The way his body angled. He didn't react often. But when he did, she paid attention. One afternoon, a new volunteer entered. Nervous. Hands shaking slightly. The puppy noticed. He approached her gently. Saturday. Waited. The woman watched as the volunteer relaxed. As the puppy's calm seemed to settle her. You're good with him, the volunteer said. The woman smiled. He's good with people, she replied. He just knows which ones need what. That night, as she locked up, the puppy stopped at the door. He sat. Looked back at the room. Then at her. You don't want to leave yet either, huh? She said softly. She sat beside him. The floor was cool beneath her palms. The lights hummed quietly overhead. You're not just reacting, she whispered. You're protecting something. The puppy leaned his head against her shoulder. Fully this time. The contact was warm. Steady. Her chest tightened. In that moment, the curiosity she felt turned into something deeper. Connection. Not ownership. Not control. Trust. And as she wrapped her arm gently around him, she knew this wasn't just about a strange reaction anymore. This was about understanding. And she wasn't going to stop. Until she understood him completely. By the end of the week, the woman stopped doubting what she was seeing. Because patterns, once noticed, Don't disappear. They repeat. She began arriving with a new kind of awareness. Not suspicion. Not fear. Attention. The rescue center moved through its familiar rhythms. Morning cleaning. Soft greetings. Leashes clipped and unclipped. But now, she watched through the puppy's eyes. She noticed the way his posture shifted before anyone spoke. How his breathing changed when someone entered the room. How his body leaned toward calm. And subtly away from something else. It wasn't about strangers. Plenty of strangers came through. Some loud. Some quiet. Some awkward. Some confident. The puppy accepted most of them. No hesitation. But every time the same man appeared, even just in passing near the building, the puppy changed. Not suddenly. Precisely. One afternoon, the woman stood near the front desk, the puppy resting beside her. She was mid-conversation when she felt it. A shift. The puppy lifted his head. His ears angled forward. His body stilled. She didn't look at the door yet. She waited. Listened. Counted her breath. Then the bell chimed. Not him. Just a courier. The puppy relaxed. She exhaled. False alarm, she murmured. The puppy glanced up at her. As if to say. Exactly. Later that day, she decided to write everything down. Not just the reactions. The context. Time of day. Lighting. Noise level. Where she was standing. She filled pages quietly. And slowly, something else emerged. The puppy wasn't reacting to the man's presence alone. He reacted to proximity. To approach. To intention. The times the man lingered near her, the reaction was stronger. The times he stayed by the door, the response softened. She swallowed hard as she realized it. You're guarding space, she whispered. The puppy rested his chin on her shoe. She took that as agreement. That evening, a senior volunteer noticed. I've never seen a dog like him, the woman said quietly. He's not trained, but he's certain, the volunteer finished. The woman nodded. He never guesses. They watched as the puppy calmly navigated the room. Greeting some. Ignoring others. Always composed. He doesn't react to energy, the volunteer added. He reacts to meaning. The words settled heavily. That night, the woman stayed late again. The lights dimmed. The world narrowed. She sat cross-legged on the floor. The puppy curled beside her. You don't growl at shadows, she whispered. You growl at something real. The puppy lifted his head. Met her eyes. Held them. Her heart beat slowly now. Steadily. She wasn't afraid. She was aware. And awareness brings responsibility. The next morning, she spoke to the director. Calmly. Carefully. She explained the pattern. No accusations. No conclusions. Just observations. The director listened. Frowned. Nodded. We'll be mindful, she said. That's all we can do for now. The woman left the office feeling both lighter and heavier. Nothing had happened. But something had been acknowledged. That afternoon, as the puppy walked beside her in the sunlit room, she realized the truth. The mystery wasn't growing darker. It was growing clearer. And clarity, when it comes slowly, has a quiet power all its own. The shift didn't happen loudly. There was no sudden discovery. No dramatic interruption. It arrived quietly. The way truth often does. On a slow afternoon, the rescue center was half full. Soft footsteps. Muted voices. The woman sat near the front desk, sorting papers. The puppy lay beside her chair, chin resting on his paws. Eyes half closed. Relaxed. Until he wasn't. His head lifted. Not sharply. Smoothly. His ears angled forward. The woman felt it before she saw it. That familiar tightening in the air. She didn't move. She waited. A few seconds passed. Then the puppy stood. He didn't growl. Didn't step forward. He simply positioned himself. Slightly closer to her chair. His body turned outward. Blocking. The woman followed his gaze. Across the room, near the hallway that led to storage, stood the man. He hadn't entered through the front this time. He was already inside, talking with another volunteer. Laughing. Relaxed. Her stomach dropped. The puppy's posture changed subtly. Not aggressive. Intent. She stood slowly. Walked toward the desk. "Hey," she said calmly to the volunteer. "I need help with something in the office." The volunteer nodded and stepped away. The man lingered. "Nice place you have here," he said. "Feels welcoming." The puppy growled. Low. Controlled. The sound carried. The man's smile faltered. "I'm just here to drop off a donation," he said quickly. "No need for that." The woman's voice stayed even. "I'll take it from here." She stepped closer to the puppy. Placed a hand lightly on his shoulder. He didn't move. Didn't escalate. He held his position. The man shifted his weight. Stepped back half a step. The puppy relaxed slightly. The woman noticed. Her heart pounded. "You're responding to movement," she thought. To intention. A memory surfaced. Something she'd read once. About dogs sensing microchanges. Breath. Muscle tension. Direction. Not emotion. Decision. The man cleared his throat. "I'll leave this here," he said. He placed the envelope on the counter. As he turned to leave, his shoulder brushed past the woman's space. The puppy stepped forward. Just one step. The growl deepened. The man froze. "I didn't," he began. The woman raised a hand. "Please don't move closer." Her voice surprised even her. Steady. Certain. The man backed away. The puppy stopped. Instantly. The door chimed. Silence followed. The woman exhaled slowly. Her hands were shaking now. Not from fear. From understanding. She crouched beside the puppy. Her voice trembled slightly. "You're not reacting to him," she whispered. "You're responding to what he's about to do." The puppy turned his head. Licked her wrist once. Grounding. She sat there for a long moment. The pieces finally fitting. This wasn't about the man himself. It was about boundaries. About space. About intent crossing a line. That evening, she spoke again with the director. This time, she explained it differently. Not as a mystery. As a pattern of prevention. The director listened longer this time. Asked questions. Took notes. When the conversation ended, the director nodded. "We'll update our protocols," she said. "And, thank you. Both of you." The woman looked down at the puppy. He lay calmly at her feet. As if nothing had happened. As if everything had. Because in that quiet moment, the mystery didn't deepen. It shifted into meaning. The truth didn't arrive as a single moment. It unfolded gently, carefully, like someone opening a curtain, just enough to let light in. The following days were quieter. Not because the rescue center changed, but because the woman had. She trusted the puppy completely now. Not blindly, not emotionally, but instinctively. She watched the way he moved through the space, how he chose where to sit, where to stand, who to approach, and more importantly, who to block. The man didn't return, but his absence didn't end the story. It clarified it. One afternoon, the director called the woman into the office. The blinds were half open. Late sunlight painted long lines across the floor. "We did some checking," the director said calmly. The woman listened. Didn't interrupt. "There were inconsistencies," the director continued, "in what he told us. About why he was here. How often." The woman's chest tightened. No fear. Just confirmation. "He never did anything illegal," the director added quickly. "But he was testing boundaries. Watching routines. Learning patterns." The woman thought of the puppy's posture. The blocking. The timing. "He noticed before we did," she said quietly. The director nodded. "That's the part that stays with me." Later that evening, the woman sat on the floor with the puppy. The room was empty now. Only the hum of lights. The quiet breathing of sleeping dogs. She ran her fingers gently through his fur. "You weren't angry," she whispered. "You weren't scared." The puppy shifted closer. Rested his head on her thigh. "You were warning us," she said. Her voice broke slightly. Not from fear. From gratitude. She thought about his past. The unknown days before the rescue. The things his small body might have learned without words. Not trauma. Awareness. Some dogs aren't shaped by what hurts them. Some are shaped by what they notice. "You knew how to read people," she murmured. "Because you had to." The puppy's tail thumped once. Soft. That night, she wrote one final note in her notebook. Not aggression. Not fear. Protective intuition. She closed it. Set it aside. The mystery was no longer mysterious. It was beautiful. A quiet kind of intelligence. That didn't demand attention. Didn't seek praise. It just protected. In the days that followed, the rescue center felt safer. Not because of new rules, but because of awareness. The puppy continued to greet visitors calmly. To offer comfort. To sit quietly beside those who needed grounding. And every now and then, he would position himself between someone and something unseen. Just long enough. Just enough. The woman never questioned it again. Because the truth behind the growl wasn't frightening. It was profound. This puppy didn't bark to be heard. He growled to keep others safe. And that kind of instinct doesn't come from training. It comes from purpose. The morning it all settled. Felt lighter. Not brighter. Not louder. Just easier to breathe in. Sunlight poured through the windows again, filling the rescue center with that familiar warmth. The kind that made the floors glow and softened every edge in the room. The woman arrived early, as she always did now. The puppy was waiting, curled on his blanket, eyes opening the moment she stepped inside. He stood, stretched, walked toward her. No hurry. No need. She knelt down and opened her arms. This time, he didn't stop short. He leaned fully into her. Chest to chest. Heart to heart. She closed her eyes. Exhaled. Good morning, she whispered. The days that followed were gentle. The rescue center adjusted its rhythm. Small changes. Quiet awareness. Unspoken understanding. The puppy stayed close to her. Not because he needed to. Because he chose to. When families came in, he greeted them calmly. When children sat on the floor, he lay beside them. When someone felt unsure, he settled near their feet, grounding them without effort. And when nothing felt wrong, he rested, peaceful, content. One afternoon, a couple arrived. Soft-spoken, thoughtful. They sat on the floor quietly. Didn't rush. Didn't call out. The puppy noticed. He walked over. Saturday. Waited. The woman watched from a distance. Her chest tightened. Not with worry. With something warmer. Hope. The puppy leaned into the couple's space. Just slightly. They smiled. Later, as paperwork was filled out, the woman clipped on his leash. Walked him to the front door. He paused. Looked back at the room. Then up at her. You did your job here, she whispered. His tail wagged once. The sun was setting when they left together. Light spilling across the sidewalk, painting long shadows behind them. The puppy walked calmly at her side. No growling. No watching. Just trust. As they reached the car, she knelt down, pressed her forehead gently to his. You listened, she said softly. And you taught me how. The puppy licked her cheek. Once. Gentle. The engine started. The rescue center faded into the distance. But what remained was something lasting, an understanding that some protectors don't bark loudly. They don't rush forward. They simply stand exactly where they're needed. And when they're finally seen, they can rest. The puppy curled up in the back seat, eyes closing. Safe. Because the truth behind his actions was never terrifying. It was healing. And it was beautiful.